going on, everybody? It's me, Ryan, co-creator, your host, writer, producer, the whole fucking 9 yards of High Noon, the animated series on YouTube. This is another episode of Creator Commentary, and we're going to be reviewing episode 4 entitled Dia De Los Muertos. Now, this episode I kind of hold close to my heart. For those of you who don't know, I used to live in Mexico. I lived there for a year. I worked at Club Med Resort as a bartender. I backpacked the West Coast, lived in a tent, and surfed every day for 3 months. And then I moved to Playa del Carmen. Excuse me. To Playa del Carmen, where I was a bartender at a nightclub on the beach. And so Mexico has always had a very close place in my heart. And I wanted to figure out a way to play with the cryptid elements as well as the world of High Noon. The world of High Noon really falls into a category of, just use your imagination, and generally anything could come true. I mean, that's the joy of animation, is there's really no boundaries. And so I wanted to play with this script. I wanted to play a little bit with other cryptids, other mystical creatures, and how I could fit it all in. It just so happened that this episode, like Jordan and I from Studio Punchline, Jordan and I would always, we have bi-weekly meetings where we kind of sit and discuss timelines and where each episode would fall in, based on how much workload each episode would take and so forth. And so this particular episode was falling close to Halloween and close to Dia De Los Muertos. I've always had a fascination with Dia De Los Muertos. And one cool thing I learned about it was that, people come to the graveyard and they celebrate the lives of their loved ones. And in that time, they also bring their loved one's favorite food and favorite drink, and they leave it on their tombstone. And a buddy of mine always said that essentially what happens is if you were to come back the following day and try and take a bite of that food or take a sip of that drink, it would taste like absolutely nothing because the spirit of your loved one had come up and taken the spirit of that food. And I really love that. I actually had to double check on that information just to make sure my buddy wasn't fucking with me. But it is, in fact, a folklore about, Dia De Los Muertos. And I really wanted to make sure I paid homage to the celebration and not disrespect Mexico or the celebration in any way, shape, or form. I wanted to sneak that little tidbit in there. But here, let's jump right in. Again, episode number 4 of Dia De Los Muertos. There was a few songs particularly that I really wanted to have in there, and unfortunately, it's an okay version. It's not the traditional version I was looking for this particular song, but it is what it is. As you can see, this particular episode, I wanted to put in subtitles in Spanish because, again, I was kind of making this for the Mexican audience. One thing I also was finding through my analytics was that a large portion of my following, on YouTube was from Mexico. And so I really wanted to do them justice with this particular short. And yeah, so the boys walk in, Styx makes the joke of like, oh man, like these places give me the creeps. And Lenny's like, oh, that's because you put half these poor fuckers in here. Now, this particular joke I was a little bit worried about because I didn't want to offend anybody and didn't want to make it seem like, Styx was going around killing Mexicans by any means. But it's a joke among friends. Like, clearly he didn't kill anybody in this cemetery, but it was just a running joke with Lenny. And so, as you can see, the background art was done in a superb fashion by the background artist who is part of the Studio Punchline team. She does a great fucking job with the backgrounds, and the original background that I had received was a little bit more bland. It wasn't as colorful as you would see a cemetery on Dia de los Muertos. So I had to send them some reference photos of like the oranges and the candlelight glow and the colorfulness of Dia de los Muertos. And this is the background they came up with, and it's a fantastic job they did. And so here...
Are you sure your friend's gonna show? He'll be here.
This shit doesn't taste like anything.
Doesn't taste like
So
anything.
right there was where I snuck in the little folklore joke, as well as informing those who really don't know about it. And it's funny because this was the number one comment that I was getting in my comment feeds was like, you know, some people knew, some people had no fucking idea that that's what I was trying to accomplish. But I think a majority of the people understood and thought it was hilarious and enjoyed the fact that I was able to sneak in a bit of an inside folklorish joke in the short. And again, trying to accomplish as much as I can with the character development. You know, Lenny's notorious for if you grabbed yourself a copy of the graphic novel, you would see Lenny's a shit shot. And again, one to run away as soon as shit gets heated. And so, of course, he meets El Chupacabra for the first time. And he's like, oh, love your life. And can't shoot anything. This is the whole thing. I had that scene. I had a discussion with Jack about it. And I was like, this is what I love about being creative and being able to do this, creating these shorts, is Jack and I had a pretty in-depth discussion about whether or not Lenny would actually piss his pants. You know, like, is this within the realms of Lenny's character? Would he, like, sure, he'd be afraid and sure he would run for his life. Would he piss his pants, though? And so there was a fun little debate we had for pretty much a day. And we came up to the conclusion, okay, maybe Lenny won't piss his pants. If it is something that we need to explore down the road, we will. But for now, it's Lenny's pants pissing is safe. He's not going to piss his pants. And so I wanted it to, you know, because of the fact that, spoiler alert, Chupacabra knows Atticus, being that they're cryptids and buddies, I really wanted it to look like he was attacking was about to attack Lenny, and that's why Lenny was so scared. Whereas Styx, he's a stone cold killer. He doesn't really get fazed by much. And then Atticus is in on the joke, really, because he knows it's his boy. Another thing about this, too, is the design of El Chupacabra took us a little bit to perfect. I wouldn't say a little bit. It was just a little bit of back and forth between Jordan at Studio Punchline and I. And the rendition, this version that he had, was fucking perfect. I sent him some images that were comps that I think that would really kind of suit the look. And this is what they came up with. And it was fucking fantastic. But yeah, so he charges. Styx kind of goes for his weapon. And then, you know, Atticus stands in front of him. Hey, yeah, he's laughing.
Styx,
and Atticus knows a little bit of Spanish. And again, I wanted to showcase my Spanish. I wanted to showcase... and I, you know, I always laugh. People are like, "Oh, you speak Spanish?" I'm like, "No, I speak Mexican," because there is certain slang and dialect that come from Mexico that aren't in the Spanish world. So, you know, when I speak my Spanish, people know that I learned it in Mexico. But I wanted to showcase as much as I could with El Chupacabra. And the one thing I always loved about Styx is we always said Styx is a man of many cultures. He has been around. He's traveled. He's lived with native tribes. He's done his living and, you know, speaks a few different languages because of it. So when he says, you know, what he says at the end here, El Chupacabra's stoked because he got his weed, and he's like, you want to smoke? ¿Quieres fumar? And he's like, a huevo. A huevo was a joke kind of phrase that I learned when I first started living in Mexico. My buddies taught me it, and it is kind of like, to this day, a word that I utilize and a word that I absolutely love in the Spanish language. And so, yeah, I mean, this was the only episode that I wanted to keep the background music going, because again, the song that I chose was Llorona, which is a very traditional song that people play around this time of year. You probably heard it in, you know, the Disney's Coco. But again, I wanted to make sure that I paid the proper respect to Mexico. There was a few people who put in the comments like, this offends me, and again, I had to make sure that I made it very clear that this whole short was done purely out of love. And to be honest, it's probably the one short that's done the best so far, with the amount of views. Again, 179,000 views on, you know, YouTube alone, which doesn't include the TikTok, which was like 190,000, and then IG, which was kind of, I think, falls into like the 80 or 100,000. So So yeah, this was one of my favorite. This episode was kind of my baby. It kind of showcased as much as I could, again, paying respects to Mexico, but also having a little bit of fun with the world and showcasing what's possible in the world of High Noon, so that when the time comes that we get picked up by a streaming service, it's already embedded in the storyline that there's so much potential for fun to be had. There's so many different situations that could arise with this group of fucking of shitheads. And so yes, that was my creator commentary for episode 4, Dia De Los Muertos. Please, again, leave comments. Let me know what you think. Any thoughts, any questions, please hit me up. I'd love to answer them and engage with you. And thank you again for following along. And I hope that you continue to like, share, comment, all that jazz to keep this momentum moving forward. Because we are kind of getting to the wire when it comes to the series. We've got one episode left coming out, hopefully in the next week or so. So please follow along, and I will see you next time when we explore episode 5, which is entitled Julia Darling.
I came from the mud.